What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Shunguang's EP, 1,000 First Meetings. They really are just coming one after another with these EPs, surprising me with releasing this one just in the middle of the night for me. But I'm here now to react to it, and I'm very excited to see what kind of song this is in comparison to Zhao's, because Zhao's was a very distinct vibe, and I have a feeling this is going to be a very different one as well. So with that, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra. And let's get into this. What kind of song are we in for? Oh? Oh? What language is that? Okay, this is an interesting way to start. Her diary, of course. Inevitably, I have a feeling this has to do with her memory and stuff. Of course, of us. Okay, they're leaning into that more. But not just of us, of everybody. God, through Shunguang, we've gotten some great, like, outfits for everybody. More mundane clothing is always fun. Okay. Ah, okay. We're doing a, like, metaphorical representation of, like, an alternate universe version of events. Okay. As if we're all going to school and good old Shifu is the teacher. Of course, we catch her, or at least Wise. Belle taking a picture. God. Really leaning into the Wise side of things here. Ah. And her brother, of course. Yeah, this is a scene we never got to see. Something that couldn't really happen. Interesting. I like the vibe of the song so far. Oh, transfer. Okay, is that to represent the conclusion to her, like, time with us because, obviously, memory loss in the real world? And there's her brother. To watch over her to make sure she's okay. Why can't I forget or let go? Curious line in contrast with everything. I like the on-the-beat lightning. And so she goes to leave, but we chase after her? Yeah, okay. She's accepted this fate that we will not be able to be together, to spend time together, but we fight to make sure that that can stay the case. The courage to take a step. She's already on the bus. Oh, but she left the diary? Okay. They really are sticking to this idea that we may not be able to save her. But, oh, perhaps not? Oh, okay. No, a hint towards a reunion. Okay. Huh. Okay. Very chill song. This is a fun EP. Visually speaking, they're doing some fun stuff here by effectively adapting the feeling of the storyline and arc of Shunguang and her relationship with us and the other members of Yunque Summit into the context of a school. It's not necessarily a super crazy original idea. Plenty of things have done that before, but it does work well for her, I feel like. She's the kind of person who, if she were born into this kind of life, would probably be completely happy. Though when granted the power to help and protect people, she wants to use it to protect people. If she didn't have that power, I don't know if she would be the kind of person to strive for it. I think she would be content and happy in a life that is more mundane. And at the same time, even if that's not entirely true, I think that a lot of the people around her wish she could have a mundane life. Wish that she didn't have to carry the burden that she does wielding the Qingming sword. But within this altered context of the scenario, we effectively have her transferring to a different school, leaving town, as the equivalent of her succumbing to the curse of the sword. For her to move away and not be able to stay in contact with all of her friends that she's come to know, being the people of Yunque Summit and us, it is directly aligned with the idea of losing her memories of us. Regardless of which one it is this loss of a relationship, loss of a connection. And as we saw in her animated short, she is willing to accept this because she knows that this time together did happen, that even if she does one day forget the memories of her time with us, that they still did happen, and that she still loved us and we loved her, that kind of thing. So contextually it works perfectly fine as an equivalency, as while she is accepting that fate, accepting that she will lose who she is and her memories to protect others, in this case it is she is not fighting against this transfer, she is accepting that this is something that will happen, and thus gets on the bus of her own volition, even if she still holds on to the picture of a time together with us. But at the same time, something that this gives us that the animated short didn't, is the other side of this interaction, of this inevitable fate, is how desperately those who care about her fight against it. Even as she accepts this fate, everyone around her who cares about her refuses it, does everything they can to make sure she survives, make sure she doesn't go through with this. Of course, most clearly shown here with Wise desperately riding his bike to try to catch up with her, presumably to at the very least say goodbye, if not try to convince her to stay. Which then directly aligns with the reality of us and everyone surrounding her, including her brother and the members of Yunque Summit, doing everything they can to try to stop her from using the sword too much, to find a way to break the curse, stop it from deteriorating her memories and senses. But once again, she has accepted this fate. She lets her phone ring here as we call her to try to talk to her, try to figure out what's going on, try to stop her. But she does not answer. She does not pick up the phone. She just sits there, not doing anything, waiting. She is willfully letting this happen, knowing that a part of her wants to stay, a part of her doesn't want to lose herself. Perhaps in the case of the real version of events, that is what her alternate self is embodied as, that we saw more of in her animated short, is that voice telling her, stop, what are you doing? We need to find a way out of this. We can't just accept this fate. But she is willing to go through with it nonetheless. She thinks that it is okay. She thinks that it is fine. Even if it hurts, even if it is sad, even if it is tragic, she is willing to go through with it. Even as everyone around her tries everything they can to stop her, to find another way. And if I were to guess, this is almost certainly born out of her not wanting others to worry about her. She is willing to whittle herself away if it means that everyone else is fine and thinks that she's okay, which is a very destructive mindset, I will admit. And though in the animated short, we had this assertion that the feeling of having loved and been loved remaining is enough to make it okay, that there is this silver lining that makes everything leading up to her losing herself fine, that ultimately is just her accepting her own demise. And with the fact that we end this song with her turning back and smiling. Immediately the thought is that Wise or Belle or someone from Yunque's summit is there to find her and talk to her, and she is happy about that. But this points to something, in line with what I was just talking about, which is that even if she has accepted this fate, even if she doesn't want us to worry, she is happy to see us when we chase after her. If we find another way, if we find a solution to the problem, that would be the outcome she still wants the most. She would toss away this fate if it meant that she could still protect people without destroying herself. But she does not see a way for that to happen, so until it is shown to her, she will not search for it. That is what this says to me. But the fact that there is this implied reunion at the end here leaves it on a hopeful note in my mind, that there is the possibility of us finding some way to bypass the curse of the sword, to save her memories and senses from complete oblivion. But at the same time, I don't put too much hope in that, just because this is a sort of idyllic version of reality that we are being shown here. Rather than being combatants in an apocalypse who are sacrificing themselves to save others, this is a much more mundane scenario of a friend transferring schools even though they don't want to, but accepting it because they don't see another way, only to reunite with their friends afterwards. And thus, in that idyllic version of events, it might be a bit too idyllic for reality. Zenless, as a story, has always been one of accepting cruel realities while still fighting against fate. Very few characters in Zenless are openly welcoming death or demise, but the fundamental state of everyone still living on is in itself a defiance of the apocalyptic event known as the Hollows. But at the same time, we have again and again and again had characters who have to accept a tragedy, accept some loss, accept the death of someone that they cared about, and move on regardless. And though I, from a more meta sense, have reasons to believe that Shunguang won't necessarily die or anything like that, from a narrative standpoint, there is merit to the idea that we cannot stop this, that we cannot stop Shunguang from sacrificing herself for others. It's just a slightly different perspective on things. Rather than it being a character we meet coming to terms with the death of those who have already gone. In this case, it would be the character coming to terms with their own death, as well as us having to come to terms with that. But that is to an extent beyond this EP, even though it is very much what this is sort of talking about and showing to us and implying. But to look at more specific aspects of this EP, though a lot of visually what we're shown is just to express things we already understand about her character, her connection to us, her connection to Yunque's summit, how much she loves these relationships and these bonds that she has, some of them do add interesting texture. One of which is this, the diary on the bench. As far as I can tell, this bench is the one she is sitting on while waiting for the bus or train or whatever. And in a previous shot, she has the diary with her while waiting, which implies one of two things. Either she is willingly leaving her diary behind, her memories of us and her experiences with us. She is choosing to let that go. Or she has forgotten the diary, thus representing her forgetting about us. Both have merit, I think. Both tie into these ideas of her accepting her fate, accepting this loss of memory and experiences and senses, as ultimately whether she chose to leave the diary here or forgot about it and left it there on accident, both serve the same purpose because she has accepted her fate. Beyond that, though, the thing that easily most intrigues me about this EP is this opening part. I'm not sure what language is being spoken, but I am so curious to know what it translates to. They intentionally don't give us subtitles for this part, which speaks to me that this is a series of lines that inevitably have great meaning to Shunguang's character in some way, shape, or form, but that they are intentionally shrouding to some extent. Depending on what it is that these lines say, perhaps it is her underlying hopes and beliefs and wishes that she doesn't let come to the surface, her underlying wish to stay with us, that kind of thing, or her fears of what is to come, or something like that. It also, alternatively, could be the underlying truth that there is no way to save her, something along those lines. Destiny cannot be defied in this moment. There's a lot of things it could be, and wild speculation can only get me so far, but if we know what this translates to, I'd be incredibly curious to know feel free to leave it in the comments if we know. But stepping away from the interesting, intriguing beginning stuff, to touch on the lyrics for a moment, I'm not going to go line by line because I admittedly am a little bit sick right now, so I am sort of crashing, but I'm powering through because I want to give this the proper time. But to touch on the lyrics, a lot of them are of course focusing on this idea of memory and experience, but also a key theme throughout it is uncertainty. The uncertainty of the future, uncertainty of the relationships that Shunguang has, uncertainty that they will last, uncertainty in just pretty much everything. It really just ties into everything I've been talking about when it comes to Shunguang's cherishing of these memories and of these bonds, as well as the worry and uncertainty of when they will fall away. But one part of the lyrics that I do want to call out specifically is here near the end when she's getting onto the bus and stuff and we're chasing after her. There are these lines talking about having the courage to take a step, to escape this lonely island, to discover the mysterious unknown beyond reach. And in one sense, this could be the courage to sacrifice yourself, the courage to accept this fate, this reality, despite it not being what you want. Step into that mysterious unknown of the uncertainty beyond the life you currently live, and into this loss of self. But I feel like that is not quite right, mainly because of the middle part of this line being escaping the lonely island. I think much more likely it is talking about mustering the courage to fight back against this destiny, to want to maintain this relationship, to fight back against the loss of memory, of senses, to hold on to these connections, these relationships, these bonds. And in that context, it perfectly explains the line of escaping the lonely island, because she has assumed that she will not keep these bonds, assumed that she will lose these memories, and thus isolated herself to a degree. At the same time, others have isolated her to protect her. But if she can find the courage to get out of this, to find a way out of this scenario, out of this fate, she could perhaps be with all those people she cares about, no longer be lonely on this isolated island, escape that fate, and discover the mysterious unknown, not of what is beyond the loss of self, but what is the regaining of self, the reforging of these bonds to make them stronger and hold more firmly. But who knows? It really could be either. I just personally am more aligned with the second one, and I think it fits better with that middle piece of the Lonely Island. With that in mind, though, I think I've touched on the vast majority of this here. The last thing I want to touch on is something that I similarly touched on in the animated short, but I feel like is worth mentioning again here, which is inevitably the way that they are portraying Shunguang's relationship with us, Faith. It is very clear, especially in this EP, that they are really leaning into how much she cares about us, how much they are leaning on this relationship developed between Faithin and her. But where in the animated short, they did a lot to make it ambiguous, whether it was Wise or Belle, which I appreciated for just the logic of, you know, it could be either whoever you played as, you could slot in there, that kind of thing. Here, though there are plenty of moments of both Belle and Wise being with Shunguang and appreciating each other's company, showing their relationship, there is a much stronger focus on Wise here. He is the one to catch her as she's falling, he is the one to study with her, he is the one to chase after her on his bike, which even more strongly than it already was, to me emphasizes the fact that they are really selling this as a sort of romantic relationship, or at least that it could be. This prospective romance between Wise and Shunguang is very clearly something they intentionally are hinting at. As with gacha games often, the validity of how concretely that will be the case probably not vary. We'll have stuff like the one event where we're effectively going on dates with her and stuff like that. But much more so, this kind of stuff is, I feel like, for the advertising of the character. If I'm to be cynical about it, it's that promotional of, look at the new character, she loves you. Of course, that is a piece of this, and I've been willing to sort of let that be, because though it's been a very distinct element of her character, it hasn't been as slapping us in the face as, say, something like Vivian, which I will admit I also like Vivian's character, but that's because she has plenty of stuff to her beyond just her love of Faithin. But with Shunguang, the reason I've been okay with it is because it also is tying in these elements of her relationship to her brother and the other members of Yunhui Summit, even if one of the main things they focus on is her relationship with us. This EP, though, does definitely begin to skirt the line for me, though I'm not going to necessarily complain about it, because inevitably there are plenty of people who like this kind of thing, who really love these implied romance elements, and I'm not so strongly against this kind of thing that I'm gonna say it's bad and horrible or anything. And ultimately, I also just am withholding judgment until we see the conclusion of her arc in the new version, because ultimately everything we're building off of is based off of essentially the first half of her story and some promotional material. And ultimately, that's just to say that though I'm not giving concrete judgment on it yet fully, I will acknowledge what is going on and what they're doing and how it affects things. But with that, I think I'll leave things here. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Amorphosilica Desaize and Pokelove101 at the normal tier, and Kono Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!